Beverly Hillbillies.
You wait here. I'll go and see Mr. Drysdale.
Letter to Mrs. Radnor Fenwick. In reply to yours of the 10th, seeking capital for your contemplated housing development.
Mrs. Fenwick is seeking capital with her millions?
Well, she's too smart a businesswoman to take the whole risk herself.
Excuse me, someone to see you.
I told you no interruptions.
I told you no interruptions.
Sorry, Mr. Clampett, no interruptions.
Clampett! Well, come in, come in.
Well, I don't want to be no bother.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to see you, Mr. Clampett. Coffee for Mr. Clampett.
Coffee for Mr. Clampett.
You help.
Well, now, don't make no fuss over me.
Oh, it's my privilege to make a fuss over you, Mr. Clampett. I was going over your account just this morning. And do you realize that now you have almost $40 million in my bank?
Well, I reckon that money of mine is getting to be a powerful nuisance to you.
What?
Well, I'm obliged to you for storing it here, but it seems to me like I ought to be paying you rent or something.
Oh, no. I'm delighted to do it.
That's mighty kind of you. Now, I've come to ask you another favor.
More money to store?
No. I'd like you to get me one of them airplane tickets to go back home.
Oh, my pleasure. Home? Oh, you mean just for a little visit?
No, it's more than that.
Why, what's the matter? Did someone offend you? Was it my wife? Has she been shooting off her big Boston bazoo again?
Mr. Drysdale, it wasn't that at all. Everybody's been surpassing good to us. Elly May is the reason I want to go back to the hills.
Oh. Homesick, eh? Well, I tell you what. I'll have your cabin flown out here, log for log, and every tree and bush around it. And we'll put it in your backyard. Then we'll dig a creek, just like the one at home. And we'll stock the whole place with possum, raccoons, hound dogs, bobcats, and whatever Elly wants. She could just run wild.
But that's what I moved out here to get Elly away from. I was hoping you folks would turn her into a lady. But I think she's getting worse.
Coffee time!
You're to blame for this. It was your responsibility to turn that wild girl into a lady, and you failed.
What have you done now, you overdeveloped vixen?
No, not her. I'm talking about Elly May Clampett.
But
wait,
she...
Mr. Drysdale, Miss Jane done the best she knowed how. Why, as a matter of fact, it was her that got Elly her first ball gown.
That's true. By the way, I haven't seen that gown since. What happened to it?
I kind of hate to tell you, but I reckon you got a right to know. First time I seen Elly in that gown, she looked like a dream of walking. But when she come back...
Oh, you sure was right. Oh, Irene, you don't have to wear boys' clothes to have fun with boys.
Hey, May, you promised me you wouldn't wrestle.
I ain't been wrestling.
Then what have you been doing in your ball gown?
Doing what I'm supposed to do, playing ball. Oh, I made 2 touchdowns and kicked 3 field goals.
Granny gave that gown a good scrubbing with her lye soap and patched it, too. But it never looked quite the same after that.
Mr. Clampett, we have failed you. And when I say we, I mean you.
But she...
Don't argue with me.
What are you standing here for? There's work to be done.
But I just...
Don't argue with me.
I feel like I'm causing a lot of trouble for folks that ain't to blame. Now, if you just get me that airplane ticket...
No, Mr. Clampett. We'll work on Elly May. We'll polish her.
No, Elly May don't take a polish real easy.
We'll have to face it, gentlemen. Elly May is a wildcat on wheels.
Oh, you heard about this morning, did you?
Heard what?
Elly being on wheels.
Wheels?
Granny and me was having a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden, we heard this roaring noise.
If that's Jethro riding his fire-spitting bicycle again, I'm going to take a hickory stick to him. Thank you, Granny. Want to go for a ride?
Sweet-smelling polecats. That was Elly May.
Shut that door, Jed. I'll cut through this way and snatch her off that contraption and paddle her riches.
Pretty, carry him away!
No, I won't!
Hold on, Granny, I'm coming! I never would have caught her if she hadn't rode that thing into the cement pond.
Oh, poor Granny.
When I pulled her out, she was madder than a wet hen. Wetter, too. Right then, her and me decided that what Ellie needed was a full-time ma.
You mean you're getting married?
Oh, I got to, for Ellie's sake. That's the reason I need that airplane ticket. I'm fixing to go home and court myself a hill woman.
Well, how about a Beverly Hill woman?
Oh, these fine city women wouldn't look twice at a grizzled-up old mountain goat like me.
Oh, what are you talking about? Mr. Clampett, you are one of the most eligible bachelors in this entire city.
When word gets out that J.D. Clampett is seeking a bride, there will be women beating down your door.
Might be a good test for him. It'd take a strong one to handle Ellie. That's the reason I think I'd best do my courting back home, and the quicker the better.
No. Let me take care of everything. I guarantee I will find the woman right here in Beverly Hills, and today.
Well, that's mighty nice of you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Chief, I am as eager as you to find Mr. Clampett a mate locally. But should you have guaranteed to find him one today?
I'm not worried. Beside me, stalwart and true as always, I have the finest secretary in the world.
Thank you, Chief.
A loyal and dedicated girl to whom responsibility is a sacred word. A girl who will never fail me when duty calls.
Thank you, Chief.
You'll make Jed Clampett a fine wife.
Me? I?
You.
But, Chief, I promised to Jethro.
Oh? Who promised you?
Me? I?
Excuse me, Mr. Drysdale.
Hey, what about her?
Oh, she's too young for Mr. Clampett.
I mean for Jethro. You're for Mr. Clampett.
What is it, Janet?
The guard downstairs just phoned to say that Mrs. Radnor Fenwick is on her way up to see you.
Oh, yes. It must be about that new housing development. Hey, wait a minute. She's a widow.
Chief, Mrs. Fenwick and Mr. Clampett have absolutely nothing in common.
Are you kidding? They've got $100 million in common. And if I can get them together, I can have it all right here in my bag.
I'm looking for the office of the president. Mr. Pyersdale or Skyrsdale or something.
Welcome.
Oh, you're Mr. Flysdale.
At your service, madam.
Very well, Beasley. Bring in the maps and the blueprints.
Let me take your money. Mink.
Hey, Granny, can I ask you a favor?
What is it?
Next time you ride my sickle, will you please not leave it at the bottom of the cement pond? I pretty near drowned trying to get that thing started down there.
I didn't run it into the cement pond on purpose, you darn... What is that?
Well, this here's some of that store-bought courting candy I fetched for Uncle Jed.
Praise be. The quicker he gets home and courts a good, stout woman to tame that daughter of his'n, the better.
Well, I think he's fixing to do his courting out here.
Beverly Hills? A city woman?
I think so. He's upstairs right now putting on his courting clothes, and he sent Elly May out to pick him some posies.
Howdy do, ma'am. My name is Jed Clampett, and Mr. Drysdale, my neighbor, said you're prime for a little courting. I brung the guitar, and if we can set in your porch swing out yonder, I'll take a crack at serenading you. Excuse me, ma'am. I ain't done no active serenading and courting in nigh on to 20 years. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my
Jed?
darling.
What's all this nonsense about you courting a city woman?
Well, it was Mr. Drysdale's idea.
Well, it ain't worth shucks. City women is spoiled rotten.
Mr. Drysdale's gonna cull through a bunch of them and trot out the best of the lot.
All they think about is smearing themselves with beauty grease, fancy-smelling renderings. Why, if you was to hug one of them, she'd squirt out of your arms like a prune pit.
Well, at my age, I don't figure to do a whole heap of hugging.
What do you mean, your age? Why, you're a fine figure of a man. A heap too good for these Beverly Hills society women.
Judge Clampett speaking. Oh, howdy, Mr. Drysdale. You got any prospects for me?
Indeed, I have. Ever hear of Mrs. Radnor Fenwick of Fenwick House?
Fenwick, Fenwick? Oh, yeah, that's the widow Fenwick. Got the skinny daughter named Cynthia.
That's the one. And she's very interested in you, Mr. Clampett. Very interested indeed.
Well, you don't say. Granny, you remember the widow Fenwick?
Yeah, and you ain't gonna get no dowry out of her. She's poor as a church mouse.
Honeymoon Lane. That's a very appealing name for a subdivision.
I'm out to attract the young married. Let others build for senior citizens. I want those long-term mortgages with interest payments that never stop.
How much will the project cost?
$100 million. Oh, I'm not risking one penny of my own. Well, my contribution is the idea, the experience, and the know-how. Oh, Drysdale.
That's Drysdale, Mrs. Fenwick. D-R-Y, Drive.
Yes, so am I. How about some tea?
Good idea.
Well, what news?
Mr. Clampett is very interested indeed.
Just how interested? I will need $10 million to get this project rolling.
Well, I believe I could recommend that as a good, sound investment.
Splendid.
Provided you and Mr. Clampett hit it off personally.
Personally, this is business.
Well, Mr. Clampett is that kind of man. And it is important that his family like you, too.
I've no time to socialize with those eccentric hillbillies. I have here my general contractor's license. I'm ready to start bulldozing.
Mrs. Fenwick, both you and I know that those first 10 million are very hard to come by.
Oh. Very well, but remember one thing. I control this honeymoon lane venture. I'm not having anyone tell me what to do with their money.
Jed, I still say that you ought to go back home to do your courting, where the woman could bring you a dowry. You can bet dollars to dumplings that widow Fenwick ain't gonna come through that door leading no big fat sow.
Well, now, Granny, a dowry ain't everything. The widow's got experience. She raised a daughter of her own. You remember Skinny Cynthia?
I do. Here's your courting candy, Uncle Jed.
Oh, thank you, Jethro. Put it in the truck and put my guitar in there, too. Because Elly fetches my flowers, I want you to drive me over to the widow Fenwick's.
Is that who you're going to court?
That's what I'm starting with.
Well, Uncle Jed, now that you're here in Beverly Hills, why don't you court one of them Hollywood movie stars?
Well, if things don't work out with the widow, I might just ask Mr. Drysdale, can he fix it so I can meet Lillian Gish? Maybe even Mary Pickford.
Now you're talking dowry. I bet you that Mary Pickford is good for a herd of milk cows and a barn full of setting hens.
Look out, Granny! Here comes Elly with my flowers.
There's your flowers, Paul.
Jed, I don't care who you court, but get to courting. I'm gonna need help with that young'un and need it fast.
How come you're wearing that?
Don't want my courting derby to blow off and get dented. Quick as we get to the widow's house, I'll change back. Drive on. Like they still living in this little house. Still got the name on it, big as life.
Yeah, poor but proud. Hey, Uncle Jed, I got an idea. How about me going inside with you and courting Cynthia while you court the widow?
I don't hardly think there's room in that little house to do double courting, Jethro. I'll tell you what, you come in and say howdy, and then take Cynthia for a walk, leaving the widow and me alone.
I get you on. You want to do some sparking, huh?
Widow Fenwick? Anybody home? Widow? Don't appear to be nobody home.
Well, hot diggity dog. Now you and me can eat the candy.
Get out of there. Come on, let's go.
Do you wish the mink, madam?
No. I think it's better psychology not to appear too affluent in front of these hill types. However, I will take blue chip. Ah, Holmes always makes such a good impression. Wait in the car. I'll telephone if I need you.
Very good, madam.
My dingies is coming out of the ceiling and the walls and every place.
Somebody always comes to the door when that music plays.
I reckon that's what brings them in. They hear it playing out on the street.
Want me to go see who it is?
I'll do it. You get that contraption out of here. Well, Widow Fenwick, come in.
How do you do?
I see you managed to scrape up a dowry. Little lamb, ain't he?
Oh, indeed he is.
Well, he ain't much. But it shows your heart's in the right place. Come on out to the kitchen and we'll commence fattening him up.
Hey, Elly May! You bring my sickle back here!
Now, quieten down, Jethro. Looks like we got company.
This ain't your sickle no more than it's mine.
'Tis so.
It ain't neither.
His.
Tank, you want to wrestle?
You don't. Now, hold on, both of you. I don't want no more of that kind of talk. Jethro, you put that sickle in the shed and get this truck out of the way.
Yes, sir.
Elly May, I want a word with you.
Yes, sir, Paul.
I'm fixing to court you them all. Not bad.
Is that why the widow Fenwick done come over?
She here?
Sure is. Mr. Beasley yonder brung over in his new car.
Mr. Beasley, huh? I sure hope Mr. Beasley ain't got first call on the widder. Wouldn't want to be grazing in another man's pasture. Especially him being a soldier in uniform.
Oh, splendid you've returned.
Howdy, widder. I reckon I was at your place when you was coming over here.
Well, we're together at last, and now we can make up for lost time.
Elly May, why don't you go out back and see if your granny needs some help?
Yes, sir, Paul.
Well, widder, seeing as we ain't at your house and we's over here, you mind stepping into my parlor?
The sooner we get down to business, the better.
Sure don't beat around the bush, man.
Mr. Clampett, may I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am?
Your banker tells me you're worth $40 million.
Well, that's what I hear, give or take a few million.
Why do you drive around in that truck and dress as you do and eat grits and hog jowls?
Well, the way I look at it, widder, if you got it, spend it.
All right, thank you. Well, Mrs. Fenwick crossed me up, went over to see Jed Clampett. I wanted to prepare him before she got there.
Chief, you're a banker, not a matchmaker. Aren't you meddling where you don't belong?
Any place where there's $100 million floating around, I belong. Oh, hello, Granny. Milburn, Drysdale. Yes, may I speak to Mr. Clampett, please?
No, you can't. He's in the parlor fixing to spark the widow. Bye.
Well, I've heard of skin the cat, spin the bottle, but what is spark the widow?
Spark the widow!
You see, it's already working. Now, who says I'm not a matchmaker, eh? Come on, let's get over there and help. I smell money.
Now.
Mr. Clampett, what are you doing? Can't we get to my proposal?
Well, ma'am, I kind of like to tune up, sing you a song or two first, kind of get you in the mood.
I'm in the mood.
Sorry, but I ain't. When I go to court, I always like to build up to it gradually.
But you're not going to court.
I ain't?
No, there's no need for that. Once we reach an agreement, my lawyer can handle everything.
Don't that kind of take the fun out of it?
Mr. Clampett, I am not in this for fun. Now, look, I'll put my cards right on the table. You are the man I would like to have come with me into Honeymoon Lane.
Well, thank you, ma'am. That's mighty flattering to an old goat like me.
Nonsense, you have what I'm looking for. So now, what is it? Yes or no?
Well, you kind of got me pushed into a corner, Widder. I thought I was going to be the one to do the asking, not the answering.
Well, ask away. I have nothing to hide. But what are you in doubt about? Your banker likes what I have to offer. Dun and Bradstreet have given me their highest rating. And the city engineer has approved my construction.
Ma'am, I ain't doubting them, but them's things a man kind of likes to find out for himself.
Clampett, I'm sorry to rush you, but time is money to me. There are several very wealthy men in this town that would jump at my proposal like that. But I like you. Now, I have the license, and I have the heavy equipment.
Yeah, I reckon you do.
All right, then, if you'll just answer yes, we can get started on Honeymoon Lane today. Now, what do you say?
Widder, ain't you being a mite pushy?
You're darn tootin' she is. And if she's this pushy, flat-busted broke, thinks what she'll be when she gets her hands on your money.
Did I hear you use the term broke in referring to me?
I did. You might be as proud as a peacock, but you're as poor as Job's turkey, and you know it.
My dear, quaint little woman, I am Mrs. Radnor Fenwick of Fenwick House. That home alone cost me $3 million.
For that little place? Widder, you got slicker.
Look out, I can't stop!
Elly May, you have done ruined that door. I told you to leave that thing out in the shed.
No, you didn't, Pa. You just told Jethro to put it there.
Widder, I know you ain't one to beat around the bush, and I'm going to speak plain myself. That young'un of mine's going to take a heap of taming. Are you willing?
Are you kidding?
That'll be your job if and when you're her ma.
That I'm what?
Hop on, Ma, and I'll take you for a ride.
Now, hold on. The widow ain't your ma unless we get proper married.
Married? You and me?
Well, I don't hardly think we can get to Honeymoon Lane without it.
Mr. Clampett, I once said I would do anything for enough money. I now retract that statement.
I wonder what you meant by that.
Mrs. Fenwick is still here. That's a good sign. She and Jed must be hitting it off. Ah, Mrs. Fenwick.
Out of my way, Drysdale.
Should something go wrong?
Everything. That hillbilly untouchable wants to marry me.
What?
Me!
You can't blame him, Mrs. Fenwick. You're a ravishingly beautiful, devastatingly seductive woman.
You are intoxicated.
Just a minute, Widow Fenwick.
Oh, my darling, I almost left you come to my arms.
I'm sorry, Widow. I just don't think we'd hit it off. Here's your dowry back. Widow Fenwick, sometimes the happiness we're looking for is right in our own backyard. Now, you take Mr. Beasley there.
Oh, thank you, I shall. Quickly, Beasley, take me home. Oh, it's just all so confusing.
Kind of a skimpy dowry, but don't set too much store by that. How long you been in the service?
15 years, sir.
That long, huh? Well, maybe now with a good woman behind you, you'll soon have some stripes on them sleeves. World of happiness to the both of you.
This has been a Filmways presentation.